I'm sure most of you at this point are familiar with the frightening Boiled One phenomenon. When it came out, it literally took the horror scene by storm, and this horrific creature known as Fen 228 quickly spread its face all over the internet, whether it be in the form of more scary material or memes. I feel like a lot of people who had no idea what analog horror was were first introduced to the genre because of this creepy bastard. It's actually kind of ironic that the design was able to spread so rapidly, considering in the original tape, Fen 228 appeared in a broadcast hijacking, and anyone who was unfortunate enough to see it later went into a pseudocoma, which essentially means that you are completely aware of your surroundings, but you no longer have the ability to move or speak, literally an eternal sleep paralysis. So if you came across this guy in the middle of your doom scrolling session, you may want to watch out. And this is all thanks to the very talented creator Dr. Nowhere, who is arguably one of the top dogs in the YouTube horror scene at the moment. They have consistently been able to create some of the most disturbing designs for horror creatures I have seen in a while. A lot of them become burned in the back of my brain. The last that we had left off with Dr. Nowhere, we had covered the Oddity Compendium, which really fleshed out this horror world that the Doctor had been cooking up, introducing us to horrifying creatures like mattress folk, parasitic subhumans that look just like your bed, or these tall obelisks that can allure you with the secrets of the universe, so much so that your brain either explodes or you become one with the creature. While it isn't really confirmed, I like to imagine that every video on the channel is all connected in the same universe, so we have this crazy world with all of these terrifying oddities roaming around. All of this to say that there has been a very recent upload to the channel, and I figured now would be the perfect time to return to this nightmarish realm and catch up on all the work they have to offer. As always, be sure to check out Dr. Nowhere's channel before diving in over here for us to try and survive the journey together. But without further ado, let's put on our protective gear to help guard us from the incoming oddities, and head back into the cursed analog horror world of Dr. Nowhere.
But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below as it really helps support the channel. I'll also have linked in the description below our socials and the 4-player gaming channel where we dive into the terrifying world of horror video games. But anyways, now you can pass through.
Paper Souls. This entry is probably one of the most out there ones on the channel, and that is definitely saying something considering how wild some of these videos can get. But this one comes across almost like a short little music video of some sorts. We see this friendly looking fellow here, and very quickly it looks like his head gets opened up. What follows next is a montage of a huge array of different creatures all moving about, doing their own thing. This whole video just shows off how creative Dr. Nowhere truly is, as we appear to be going through this whole world of these bizarre looking creatures. I especially like the dancing sticky note guy. Some of these drawings look a little familiar too if you take a closer look. Here you can see what looks a bit like Fen 228, and even the obelisks from the compendium. Oddly enough, with the music playing in the background and the collection of all these neat drawings, the horror almost gets lifted away in a sense, and not in a bad way at all. It kind of gives me cartoon world vibes like Adventure Time or The Amazing World of Gumball, where each character has such a unique design, and they all coexist in the same wacky world. Still though, if I saw one of these things by themselves in real life, I'd be shitting my pants. But seeing them all together just hanging out makes it seem more like a fun time. I gotta say, the most off-putting drawing, however, is probably this guy with a sun face periodically squeezing this smaller fellow in his hands. Near the end of the video, we see as one of the characters sits on the floor leaned up against the wall, looking out the window into the open world. They then begin to fade out into the distance, and we are brought back to the guy from the beginning, as his head reattaches to itself, and they close their eyes, ending the song and the video. The description of this video just reads, "Little paper people from my brain world," which is leading me to believe that the character we see at the beginning and end is supposed to represent Dr. Nowhere themselves, just letting their brain go loose and allowing the creativity to go hog wild. Sort of like an introspection into the mind, and how crazy it can get in there sometimes. I see this as a huge representation of letting your creativity flow onto the pages, and this is just a flood of all that comes out. Or I'm just looking way too deeply into a sketchbook showcase. But either way, it was a pleasant experience to behold. I'd say it almost left me with a sense of calm rather than anything terrifying, and I for one found that to be quite nice. Longboy Bonsai. This is the shortest video yet on the channel, and I know I said that the last one was the most out there, but I'm going to be retracting that statement. This one is the most strange. All we see is this funny looking guy just dancing away. Just look at him go. It then sounds like a muffled child's voice comes in and tells us that this is Longboy Bonsai, and that they think he is harmless. You only think he is? Well, that's not very comforting. However, he then begins to dance faster and faster, and I gotta say, I'm rather insulted at their explanation. What about my face do you not like, Longboy? Well, luckily for you, that dance was pretty funny, so I'll let the comment slide. There isn't too much to grab from this video. It seems like just a fun little short featuring a funny dancing creature. However, the description does give us some interesting info. Ancient future internet post from roughly 5699. Video taken by a group of children wandering a small town. It was a comedic hit for 50 seconds. Yeah, that sounds about right. Very interesting that it seems like this world is actually way far into the future, like a couple thousand years into the future, and they still have brain rot. Let's keep the headcanon of everything being connected rolling here a bit longer. The boiled one phenomenon dates us in 2003, and now we have gone all the way to the 5000s. I guess as time went on, these mysterious oddities began to appear more frequently. Who knows what life is like in this world now? Maybe there are more of them than there are of us. Where did life go? The description of this video just reads, courtesy of Sonderworld's public library computers. And sure enough, this video starts with what looks like someone flipping through various pages on a website. We see this very tall looking creature with a pipe for a nose. Someone with what appears to be a flower/sun for a head peeking out their back door. Longboy Bonsai makes his reappearance. And what do you think of my face now? Each little segment we flip through all has a unique looking character that just appears to be living life, whether it be just sitting still or moving along the setting. But then we return to the sunhead character, and whoever is operating this computer clicks on it, and we load into whatever is in store for us. Turns out, the character we are following is named Jeppy, and is considered a sunfolk, and he's just like you and me. We see him wake up and brush his teeth, and learn that he also dresses up to leave the house, to go to a job that blends the day. In an unexpected turn of events, this video turns into a very interesting message about the complexities of life. He eagerly waits for the sun to set, just to break the haze. Though he hears the wind chimes and the pretty voice they make, sometimes Jeppy wonders how much more of this he can take. Nothing makes him happy like it used to long ago. Monotony is bludgeoning his love for life, and so he steals and he hoards to build a tiny land, a world he controls, a world in his hands. Once again, I'm wondering if this is supposed to be an inside look at experiences from the creator themselves. The line, "a world he controls, a world in his hands," could be all about this world that Dr. Nowhere has created. Perhaps this is an allegory about escapism, the consistent use of distractions, or trying to mentally escape this world by going into one in your imagination or a work of fiction you have immersed yourself in so deeply. The following line, "Jeppy cannot live in this world, and it hurts because he knows it, escape will pull him further in, so he must tear away from it," really hits close to home. There have been plenty of moments in my younger years where it was actually a painful thought that I couldn't live in whatever fictional world I was attached to at the time. While it is nice to be able to push aside any worries stemming from reality aside, allowing yourself to fully be immersed in whatever fictional landscape you're consuming, whether it be video games or books, you name it, there's always a limit before it starts to take its toll. Thankfully, this video ends off in a much more hopeful manner than it began. But I think that you should know that though it can be gray, that life and its meaning never went away. The flower that you saw on your way to work today, the one that had your face in a funny little way, that little laugh you gave, the smile that resounded, that's where life is. To end off this video, we end up getting various images and videos of just random locations with pleasant music in the back. I really did not expect this video to turn out the way it did. We have now had 2 videos from Dr. Nowhere so far that haven't made me feel scared, but more so at ease. Literally the opposite of what I was expecting going into this. I like how the video is titled, "Where Did Life Go?" And we end up getting the answer through the eyes of Jeppy. Sure, it's a theme we have all seen before, the whole stop and smell the roses sort of deal, but that doesn't result in it having any less meaning, and I was a big fan of the way it was represented here. Jeppy is a very relatable character to a lot of people, I imagine, so to see him come to a more positive resolution was nice to see, and a welcome change of pace. It's weird. I'm not used to covering things so hopeful and nice rather than horrifying and evil, but I have a feeling things will be taking a disturbing turn here soon enough. Smilehood. Conception. The first thing we are met with in this entry looks to be an old TV. The screen then very quickly flashes an image of a very familiar character. The Locust, the freaky figure we saw in the first 3 uploads of the channel. In the third video, we also see the same heart that appears to be strung up. Once the images disappear, it almost looks like you can briefly see someone's face reflecting off the screen. At first I wasn't sure if it was actually a face, but in one of the brief flashes, it looks like the same face over the locust. Is that who is watching this back? Who's to say? The face then moves off and we again flash the same image of the locust seemingly crouched down next to the heart. The TV then begins to flash what looks to be an exterior shot of some buildings and trees, before finally holding onto the image, and we are brought in at full screen. The next image we see is what looks to be an abandoned area with a few houses. I'm not sure if anyone actually lives here anymore. Before we transition on to the next image, we again very quickly see the locust in the same state as before. We then see what looks to be some apartment buildings, and I gotta say, while the visuals have been pretty creepy, the music has been very heavenly. We flash to the locust once more before we are met with this man sitting at a table, his hand over his mouth, with a paper and a pencil sitting in front of him. The man here looks very sad. He closes his eyes as if reminiscing on a painful memory, before looking off to the side, almost as if he is looking over at where the photos on the wall are. One of the photos looks to be him with some woman, perhaps it's his wife. Then the photo below looks to be someone playing an instrument of some sorts. Perhaps our character is a talented individual, but clearly something must have happened between now and then. The next thing we are met with takes us to this beach location, where we see these two flowers planted next to each other. We hold here for a while just watching the water ripple by. However, the audio sounds like it's starting to distort. Just about every time we go to a new image, a brief flash of the locust is able to be seen. The next thing we are met with is an image of this building, with a sign in the front labeling it as Smilehood, an institute for exceptional children. This isn't the first time we have seen Smilehood. Back in the third concept video, we see a very brief advertisement for what looks to be a box labeled Smilehood, with the tagline, "The old original, the young you." Very ominous sounding if you ask me. The next image shown to us is a desolate landscape with this tree that's been chopped down, followed by these weird spiraling flashes. Then a pomegranate that's either been chopped or eaten off of. We then see our character standing out in front of his house before we are met with this really odd scene that at first I thought was just some wiry mess. But as we pan up, it almost looks like a face is about to show up, leading me to believe this is another horrifying creature, or just the insides of a human body. We are then very briefly brought back to the TV, and we see a quick frame of our locust yet again. Call me crazy, however, but going frame by frame before the image fully loads in almost looks to give us a different design for the locust, kinda like the one reflecting off the TV screen. We then get a full screen look at the locust, where it sits on the floor leaned up next to the heart. It even looks like the heart is connected to the locust. And I'm not sure if I'm wrong here, but it looks like one of those toy sets you would see at the doctor's office to keep your kids occupied down below. The locust continues to just kind of jitter around, before it appears to look directly at us. Don't do that. We then see what looks to be a vase on the floor with a lonely flower inside, the vase looking awfully similar to the pomegranate we saw before. We then hold onto this shot of our character standing by this cliff, just staring off in the distance, presumably pondering something in his mind. After that, however, we return to the locust, who continues to prove that it's one of the more ominous creations from Dr. Nowhere. An image of a lone flower in an empty area is then shown to us, and coincidentally, above the frame looks to be an actual locust chilling out on a plant before jumping off. The last thing we are met with in this entry is our character staring at himself in the mirror, and he definitely looks different. He appears to have donned a new look, appearing almost like a clown with his red nose and shaved head. He also looks like he is practicing a smile of some sorts in the mirror, perhaps trying to put on his best performance of acting normal. The voice in the back also seems to have given us the name of our character. What else is there to say about Arlo Bloom? Almost sounds like a voice line from a story talking all about our character here. This entry was certainly one of the weirder ones, and one of the more ambiguous ones we have gotten so far. It was neat to see the locust making a return, but what it is exactly is still up to question. My guess is maybe he is just some odd representation of Arlo Bloom's inner self, perhaps his younger self. Perhaps he went to Smilehood as a gifted child. We did see a photo of what could have been him playing an instrument. That's pretty gifted if you ask me. Remember back when we looked at Smilehood in the third tape? With the tagline, "The old original, the young you"? It's possible that could hint more into the fact that the locust is something trapped within him. I also think the woman in the photo with Arlo is someone that is tragically no longer around. I think the shot of the two flowers side by side is supposed to represent the two of them being a pair. And then later on, we see the flower all by its lonesome, likely to mean that Arlo is now alone. Perhaps this whole character is supposed to be about someone who was praised a lot as a child and had many achievements early on, which has now inadvertently led to an adult life that feels lackluster, as if you have passed on from your prime. This all could just be crazy talk, but this tape left a lot up to interpretation. This probably also had my favorite score so far. I don't know what it is, but the music just felt very ethereal, and it truly added to the atmosphere. Hopefully soon we return to Smilehood, as I'm definitely very intrigued to see what else is in store for Mr. Bloom. Desidario. The first thing we see is a very unsettling sight of whatever this creepy bastard is peeking up at us as we get the title card. Our story opens up in the lone house in the middle of nowhere, and we cut inside to see this bizarre looking character sitting in his chair. We cut to various shots of the room before we get a closer look at our character just hanging around. We look back at the fireplace and can see what looks to be a little speck fall from above. This appears to really distress our character, and in a really weird scene, we see his stomach open up, and that same creepy bastard shows his face from within. The music is getting louder and louder as our character looks more and more stressed. He ends up reaching inside of his stomach, and we can see a full look at whatever this monstrosity is. He continues to reach deeper inside, and we see the shelf full of medicine bottles. After doing some quick Googling, all of this medicine is either anti-parasites or antibiotics. Whoever this character is must be incredibly ill. However, our description gives us a bit of enlightening info. Fran Keel, a lone hypochondriac, finally confronts the root of his illness. Perhaps our character, now known as Fran, is not actually as sick as he thinks he is. We watch as Fran opens up the bottle and downs a pill. We even get to see it head down his system. He then takes another look at the fireplace and can see some more specks falling down, resulting in Fran sitting in his chair with a lampshade over his head. Looks like Fran is especially worried about contracting an illness from whatever is coming down his chimney. We then see through his POV from under the lampshade and are met with this incredibly eerie segment. Fran then gets himself dressed, grabs a cleaning brush, and heads to his roof. He peeks down his chimney, almost as if he is contemplating actually cleaning it. Don't want to get covered in whatever dirty mess is in there. Fran gets down off the roof, and we end up seeing that horrific monstrosity returning, except now he is speaking to Fran, and God is his voice terrifying to hear.
There's a storm coming, Fran. You know they'll never find out what's wrong with you. And even if they did, they're just gonna make you sicker.
If I had to guess, this monster is some representation of Fran's anxieties tied to his hypochondria, talking about how no one will find out what's wrong with him, and even if they did, it'll just make him more sick. The doctor just wants to lie to him, and even if he gets prescribed something to solve one problem, it'll only cause more later down the line, telling him he shouldn't even try to go into town. This creature also seems to attack Fran's loneliness, telling him that the storm is getting closer and he will be trapped alone in his house, alone with nothing but this freaky asshole. In a really weird scene, we see what looks to be a smaller version of Fran exit the body of this creature, connected to it by some umbilical cord.
I feel you'll be alone with me.
The creature then asks if Fran remembers their deal, and we see this photo of Fran standing over a cut-down tree stump. He says that he should be grateful to even be here, as we see a brief frame of Fran with the whole tree stabbed through his chest, followed by the little Fran getting split in half by a pair of scissors. And what we see next is really just a nightmare to witness. We then see Fran once again sitting at his chair, with a long cord coming out of his stomach going somewhere off screen. Something that has been making me feel super uneasy is when we get a close-up of Fran, just seeing his eyes that look to be showing off incomprehensible pain. Fran then looks down and pulls at the cord, pulling out the creature within it as well, as we see the huge monstrosity exiting his body. We then see Fran unconscious in his chair, and in the most wild scene yet, we see as the top half of his body lifts up and floats up the chimney. The skin then sheds, leaving behind a white silhouette of Fran. This thing then flies over and down into this hole in the ground, and then the tape ends. I know I said that the first tape was really out there in terms of what we were witnessing, but this one takes the cake. I am not sure if the ending was supposed to show us that Fran is now dead, or if he is finally free from whatever was tormenting him. Perhaps both. I've seen a lot of theories that Fran was suffering from a terminal illness, or at the very least, chronically ill. But knowing that Fran is a hypochondriac is leaving me with a different interpretation. Because if that is the case, then perhaps Fran is just incredibly paranoid that he is very sick, hence him taking the medicine immediately after seeing whatever dropped from the fireplace, in fear that it'll be another thing to make him sick. His inner fears tell him there's no point in going to the doctors, because they just never know what is wrong with him, and it's possible that there actually isn't anything wrong with him. The creepy monstrosity tries to convince Fran that the doctors just want to lie to him, and that they are all out to make him even sicker. I will say, however, that in some scenes, it definitely seems like Fran has some issues breathing. So who knows? He may have something wrong with his lungs, hence why he would be so terrified to even accidentally breathe in the wrong thing. We do see a pair of lungs appear from within the fireplace, but that is what has been so great about the work of Dr. Nowhere. How much of this is up for interpretation and how many different theories and meanings people are able to take away from it. This journey through the works of this creator has been a delight to take part in. It is just so unbelievably cool to see these pieces of art brought to life in such a horrific manner, and it's clear that the work just keeps getting better and better as the videos go on. The art style and aesthetic is so unique to Dr. Nowhere, and it's no wonder that the channel has been blowing up lately. It's definitely well deserved. The tapes we cover today started out in more of a surreal, almost positive realm, and then slowly devolved back into that terrifying atmosphere we've all come to know and love from this world. Dr. Nowhere has truly created a very unique and intriguing world full of disturbing designs, but also very interesting characters. If you haven't already, you absolutely need to check out these videos for yourself, as I'm very curious to know what your interpretations are from all of this. But that'll probably be about it for this video. As always, be sure to keep on leaving me recommendations down below, whether it be in the YouTube comments or the community Discord, where we don't judge people's faces. I'm looking at you, Longboy. But if you'll excuse me, I need to go cleanse my palate after witnessing such distressing pieces of horror.